the entire life of Napoleon. A boy from a forgotten island, mocked for his accent, his poverty, his name, and yet, in less than 20 years, he would crown himself emperor, redraw the map of Europe, and force the greatest powers on earth to fight him one at a time, because none of them dared face him alone. This is not the story of a monster, and it is not the story of a hero. It is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, and how far ambition can carry a man before it destroys him. Corsica, 1769. A rocky Mediterranean island, recently sold to France, still simmering with rebellion. Here, a lawyer named Carlo Bonaparte and his fierce, unbreakable wife Letizia raise a son who speaks Italian before French, and who will spend his whole life being called an outsider by the very nation he conquers. France at this moment is a kingdom rotting from the inside. Debt, famine, a monarchy that has forgotten its people. Napoleon doesn't know it yet, but the world he's about to enter is a world on fire. And fire creates opportunity for those bold enough to walk into it. The making of a soldier. At 9 years old, Napoleon is sent to military school in mainland France. He's teased for his island accent. He's poor, while his classmates are rich. So he does what ambitious outsiders have always done. He outworks everyone. Mathematics, artillery, strategy. While other cadets chase parties, Napoleon studies siege warfare, like scripture. Then, in 1789, the French Revolution erupts. The king falls. Chaos floods the streets. And in chaos, careers that would have taken decades take months. By 1793, at just 24 years old, Napoleon gets his moment. The siege of Toulon. British forces hold the port. French commanders are stuck, indecisive. Napoleon isn't. He proposes a bold artillery plan, executes it under fire, and drives the British out. Paris takes notice. A general, born from a battlefield, not a bloodline. Curiosity. What happens when a revolution that despises kings creates a man ambitious enough to become one? The General 1796 Napoleon is given command of the French army in Italy, an army that is starving, unpaid, and mocked by its enemies. Within a year, he transforms it into a legend. He moves faster than his enemies expect, strikes where they're weakest, and wins battle after battle. Lodi, Arcole, Rivoli, until Austria is forced to the negotiating table. He isn't just winning wars, he's building a myth. Newspapers in Paris print his victories like scripture. Soldiers begin to believe he is untouchable, almost destined. Next, he turns toward Egypt, partly strategy, partly spectacle. He wants to cut off British trade routes to India, and he wants to be remembered alongside Alexander the Great. The campaign is militarily shaky, but it cements something more dangerous than victory: legend. While he's away, France is falling apart again, corrupt, directionless, desperate for stability. So Napoleon does something audacious. He sails home, and in November 1799, he seizes power in a coup. The revolution that overthrew one king has just handed the country to a new kind of ruler. By 1804, Napoleon isn't calling himself a general anymore. He crowns himself Emperor of the French, and in a moment historians still discuss, he reportedly takes the crown from the Pope's hands and places it on his own head. The message is unmistakable. His power comes from no one but himself. And for a few years, it seems justified. He reforms French law with the Napoleonic Code, a legal system so effective, versions of it still exist today across the world. He restructures education, banking, infrastructure. To many in France, he isn't a tyrant. He's the man who ended the chaos. But an emperor needs an empire, and empires need war. Austerlitz, 1805, considered his masterpiece. Outnumbered, Napoleon lures the combined Austrian and Russian armies into a trap, feigning weakness, then crushing them in a single, brutal day. It's still studied in military academies as one of the greatest tactical victories in history. One by one, Prussia, Austria, and Russia are humbled. By 1810, Napoleon controls or influences most of continental Europe. He is arguably the most powerful man on the planet. Curiosity. So what finally breaks a man that no army in Europe can stop? First, Spain, 1808. Napoleon installs his brother as king, expecting easy control. Instead, he gets years of brutal guerrilla resistance that bleeds his army slowly, endlessly. Historians will later call it his Spanish ulcer, a wound that never heals. Then, 1812, the decision that seals his fate. Napoleon invades Russia with over 600,000 men, the largest army Europe has ever seen. But Russia doesn't fight him head-on. It retreats, burns its own cities and farmland behind it, and lets the brutal Russian winter become its deadliest soldier. Napoleon reaches Moscow and finds it empty, burning. With no supplies and a merciless winter closing in, the retreat becomes a catastrophe. Fewer than 100,000 men make it home. The myth of invincibility is broken. Sensing weakness, all of Europe turns on him at once. In 1814, Paris falls. Napoleon is exiled to the island of Elba, a punishment almost poetic in its irony. An island for the man an island once produced. But he isn't finished. In 1815, he escapes, returns to France, and rebuilds an army in weeks, a moment so audacious it's remembered as the 100 Days. It ends at Waterloo, where British and Prussian forces finally, decisively defeat him. This time, there is no second chance. He is exiled to a remote island in the South Atlantic, Saint Helena, thousands of miles from anywhere he could ever return to power. Napoleon dies in 1821, likely of stomach cancer, isolated on that distant rock in the ocean. But the world he leaves behind is unrecognizable from the one he was born into. He didn't just fight wars. He rewired how nations govern, how armies fight, how laws are written. He proved that birth didn't have to decide destiny, and then proved, just as clearly, what unchecked ambition costs everyone around it. Was he a liberator who spread the ideals of revolution across Europe, or a conqueror who crowned himself emperor and drowned a continent in war for personal glory? Historians still argue, because Napoleon Bonaparte was never simple enough to be just one of those things. He rose from nothing to rule almost everything, and in the end, discovered that no empire, no matter how vast, can outrun a Russian winter or a man's own ambition.